Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of the Gauntlet, I want to talk about the final team for March Smashness, and I saved one of the best for last, Cyborg 8 Musketeers. I'm surprised more people didn't guess this combination before, because I marked them as my number 3 favorite combo using my favorite factions, but they are here and ready to fight. Fun fact, at one point in playtesting, this combination was absolutely broken, when All for One gave you an extra action after each action was played, and Cyberback just went nuts. While that's been patched, there is still a lot you can do with this combination, but it isn't necessarily the easiest to play. With the Musketeers, there is a tendency to gamble on what cards will be drawn and chain their actions together for temporary power. I admit, sometimes I do this myself, but you really shouldn't. This team needs to be deterministic with their actions because they can make some incredibly big plays if you know what cards to save. Obviously, you can never count on having specific cards in your hand, but I often say that you have to draw something, and this team has fairly good card draw. Missing Uplink can give you an extra card every turn. Monkey See, Monkey Do can be very good at drawing actions, especially since the Musketeers have one extra action above the normal ratio. Musketeers have D'Artagnan to draw cards, potentially multiple times per turn. In Guard can draw replacement cards. Last Stand can draw a card. Token of Affection can search for any action that can directly affect a minion, which is most of the Cyborg Ape actions. Depending on the circumstance, I may or may not play that this turn, though most often I would. The reason why I mention having specific cards is that this team has a very clear 0 to breakpoint flying monkey combo. And I'll get there, but it relies on Cyberback, who wants your actions in the discard pile because it gives you breathing room in your hand. This means that you could use your actions more freely before Cyberback. It's odd to think of the Cyborg Apes as needing recursion, because they have it, but in odd forms. Clyde 2.0 is great for this team because he is a form of recursion. So is Cyberback. Despite some very convoluted wording, Clyde 2.0 does work as a basis scoring, which makes him a very good minion to lead with. In fact, you can play shielding on him immediately because you will get it back. If a minion takes him out of play, you'd get his actions back. And you can form some quick plays with him on one turn and minions on another. Baboom and 2 Cyber Evolutions is 9 power. Aramis is 10. Juiced Up could give you slightly more power. You could potentially add on more cards, but this team needs to manage its resources carefully, which is why I'm actually going to work backwards from Cyberback. Cyberback doesn't actually care if the actions are in your hand or not. It's just incentive to play your cards earlier, but this only works for play on minion actions, and there are a few key standard actions that you want to save for Cyberback. There are many ways to initiate the 0 to breakpoint strategy, but this is probably my preferred method. If it's not a play on minion action, it must be in your hand. Your regular minion play is Athos. You play to battle to play Cyberback, which gives you an extra action that directly affects him. This should be All for One. This gives you a generic action. On a Roll gives you 2 actions that can affect Cyberback, one of which is Juiced Up, and the other is In Guard. In Guard is necessary to give you an extra action that can start a chain however much you want, but it should end in Flying Monkey. As far as play on minion actions are concerned, Cyberback has Juiced Up, Flying Monkey, and All for One. So Juiced Up is 6 power. Athos was triggered 4 times, so Cyberback has +4 from Athos, +3 from All for One, and 1 from In Guard. With Cyberback's base power of 5 and Athos at 4 power, that's a total of 23 power, 19 of which is Cyberback and mobile. And I only used 5 cards in hand, and it's not hard to see that I can make this increase further. There's also a way to do this with Aramis, but I think I like him better in other situations. With a 10 card hand limit, there's a lot of flexibility in what the other cards could be. Even a single 1 for All would add another 4 power, 3 of which belongs to Cyberback, and it's so easy to break 2 bases out of nowhere. Because Cyberback will go down in power when Flying Monkey comes off, I do like the idea of using Make Way to move him off the base so that he moves to Athos' base when the power goes down. but you might lose a few Athos triggers as a result. Last Stand could actually replenish the power in Phase 3 and then some, which makes up for the loss of Athos because it will give you 2 power and 2 bonus power. There are 2 great aspects about this play. First, it's very hard to block because it can be done in a single turn. There are ways to do it, but they require specific cards, like messing with my hand or destroying Cyberback as a special. The second aspect is that you have a choice over what the second base is, so you can clear the board very quickly. What I would do is think about the average breakpoint of each base in the matchup and decide how large Cyberback needs to be, then hold on to those key cards that I mentioned. And everyone else is fair game. That means that I can play Porthos for an easy second place, because he's hard to remove. I can use my 2s and 3s as generic minions that may or may not be triggered. Any card that can trigger D'Artagnan that doesn't serve the long-term goal is used to draw cards to expedite that long-term goal. Clyde 2.0 will allow me to use the same actions over and over again, which is important because this team has no minion recursion and has a lot of unique minions. Because All for One, Juiced Up, and Flying Monkey are allowed to be in the discard pile, Aramis can use all 3 in a single turn for a 12 power drop that keeps him in play. And if you move him onto Clyde 2.0's base, he would get back All for One and Flying Monkey, 2 of which can be played next turn, along with the Cyber Evolution, which adds more to Juiced Up, and Aramis can stay in play again, while Flying Monkey goes to your discard pile where you need it to be. With enough minions seated in advance, it's actually possible to Flying Monkey into 2 bases twice during the game. And because your opponent knows this and doesn't want to be left out of scoring, they need to play minions on every base, which slows them down and gives you more time to pull off your insane plays. When you can win 2 bases in a turn and clear the board of anything an opponent was building, it's a very big advantage. This team has so many big plays that it can be derived from what's left of the remaining cards, but it isn't a perfect synergy. There aren't enough actions to go around, and many minions may be dead minions. This is okay because it reduces your investment on many of your minions, which saves cards for later. Young Musketeers are still good targets for One for All because they would trigger all at the same time. You can lead with the Furious George and play Cyber Evolution on it for +4 while you play another action on Baboom, as long as you aren't playing Juiced Up. You may find yourself discarding minions if you hoard cards, and I'm extremely okay with that, as you're doing more with less. In the meantime, you have ways to stall. You can destroy a decent minion with Monkey on your back, and Going Bananas is a very powerful action destruction card. I also like the base support that this team receives. They want cards, they want their cards back, and they want to be efficient. Monkey Lab makes them more efficient, while Primate Park is a great target for Flying Monkey to send the minion. As a 3-2-1 base, you can win either way, either by getting a good strategic second place or by getting all of your actions back. Baseless City is great for filtering out Furious George and Young Musketeers, which is another form of card draw. The VATS is very Musketeer friendly and can slow down other combos who do not have unique minions. Portal Room can actually be very good with Cyberback and Flying Monkey because it can create a 3-base attack. The Squared Circle can be a form of recursion. Strategic Syrup makes Musketeer bursts very efficient. Bastion Saint Gervais can give you extra actions for extra power. The Golden Lily just gives you cards, period. Heya Training Stable provides a use for the minions you won't be using, and the Doyo is a very easy base to solo. Of course, there is still the Nexus, which is a really bad Flying Monkey base, but I'll take my chances. As far as weaknesses go, this team relies on extra plays, specifically extra action plays, so Eliza and Secret Agent can be very potent. Secret Agent is interesting if you discard the next card that Cyberback is going to play, but he's still a threat. Mass Transformation is an interesting counter because the Russian fairy tales have very little information about your hand outside of Clyde 2.0 returning actions. This could be countering the Cyberback play or creating it without realizing it. It's very important to order the cards in your hand before you place them on the bottom of your deck. I think the discard pile attacks could be potent because they eliminate Cyberback's usage of the staging area and require more cards to be in hand, which makes it harder to align having the right cards at all times. This team also has a tendency to build a singularly powerful minion, which Old Man Jenkins and Love Overload would eliminate. It would be great to place a shielding on Cyberback before he starts going nuts, but then you tip your hand and risk losing all your opportunity. It's best to decide on a per matchup basis whether you need to protect Cyberback in that manner. Shielding can provide protection to actions, but it cannot block minions. If you invest too much in one minion, and your opponent has a way to get through your defenses, you will lose those cards unless you have Clyde 2.0. This is what killed the Cyborg Apes last year, as they had to contend with aliens and the Supreme Overlord. They have no minion recursion, so random discard or other forms of removal can really hurt them. Random discard especially hurts because these minions want to stay in your hand until the moment is ready. The final weakness that comes to mind is that it's very easy to misplay Musketeers and waste their cards. I prefer to never make a mistake, but I find that you could generally survive one, but not more. The way I play this team has me dividing the game into two phases and deciding which cards belong in what phase. Do I need this for Cyberback, or can I afford to use it now? Many players won't be able to make that distinction. A misplay at the wrong time or a glaring inefficiency can send this team home early if you are not careful. Despite the weaknesses, the upside is there and it's tantalizing. I absolutely love this combo for good reason, and I wanted to end on them so I could finish on a high note. That's all 32 teams for this year's tournament. What do you think of Cyborg 8 Musketeers, and who is your number 1 seed? Let me know in the comments. Next week, I have 2 more Gauntlet preparation videos to go over. There are a lot of variables in this tournament, and I'm excited to talk about some things that maybe go unnoticed or seem unimportant. That's it for this team and for all teams. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.